Good morning. Sorry I'm a little bit late. My connection was weird this morning. A little wonky, weird connection. It's still weird. It's not rotating again, so we're back to this view. You can see the bunny back there. I'll give it a second while people come in, especially because we're running a few minutes late. I've had a lot of messages today. I've had a lot of people contacting me today, letting me know that they had a hard time sleeping last night, or they had things happen in the night. My cat is going crazy upstairs. Today's just going to be one of those days for a lot of people. Looks like something's being delivered. Yeah, so today's a day. It's one of those days. It's got a lot going on. There's a lot going on energetically. The planet is really amping up in her transition. If you have noticed, we're having infrastructure failures all over. There was freeway collapse, more mudslides. All of Peru is really having a lot of problems with landslides. They hit 600,000 people. The last I heard were displaced from their homes, and that was last weekend. I think Friday was the last time I heard about it. So it is. Good morning, you guys. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, Yvonne. So right now is just one of those times where we have a lot of transition happening. The Earth right now. Well, so as our solar system, I guess, is that what I need to explain today? Yeah. So what we have to think about is what's actually happening to the planet right now. Why is this change going on? Why are so many of us feeling these shifts, these transitions? What's happening, right? And I think I've explained this before, but you know, we always have new people showing up, new joining, and we can't explain it enough. So when we think about the whole Milky Way, the whole galaxy, our part of the galaxy, our solar system, is on one of those spiral branches, one of those arms. And good morning, Andrea. And the whole system is rotating. It's in motion. Now, our solar system is moving through space, as well as our planet moving through space around our sun, right? But the solar system is moving around this center black hole. The cat's going crazy today. So as that's happening, as the planet and the solar system are moving, it goes into different regions of space. And the whole galaxy itself is also in motion, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever rode on, remember in fairs and things, the zipper, the ride, the zipper, where you're in a little car and the car spins. And the spinning car is going around a track that's this oval. And the oval track is also spinning. So you're in this like three-way spinning motion. The same thing is happening to the planet, if you want to look at it on a grander scale. So our solar system is moving around our galaxy. Our galaxy is moving as well. Good morning, Yvonne. Oh, you're saying hi to the other Jessie. So all of that motion is happening right now. And the part of the solar system, the part of the galaxy where our solar system is going right now, is making it so that we're getting an increase of the energy coming from the center of the galaxy. There's a black hole pulling in, but there's also energy coming out, radiating out from the galaxy. So that energy is an increase in gamma radiation. You know, when we think of and I know this sounds silly, but we look at things like the Incredible Hulk, right? Superheroes. What is it that caused a superhero to, what made him become this super beast being, right? Well, it was this increase in gamma rays. Hi, Sue, I'm glad you were able to make it. So this increase in the gamma rays is what caused and triggered an upgrading or mutation of his DNA. So when we want to understand truth and reality, what we do is we look to these fictional stories, because even though they're fictionalized, in many respects they're telling a deep truth. A lot of those people who are artists, who create stories, who bring in this information, especially stories that stick, that stay in our culture for a long period of time, those stories really are pulled in part from truth, and then that truth is manipulated to make it seem fantastical. So right now, our solar system is entering into a part of the galaxy that has an increase in gamma rays. There's that going on. There's also going on our sun. Now, many scientists are beginning to understand that our sun isn't just this standalone star that does its own thing. That it actually is linked into the network of stars, all composing the galaxy, right? All the different stars are all linked in, and they believe that just like there's a black hole in the center, there's a mother star that controls all of them. And so that mother star is going through its own transition process as it's upgrading in its energy. And these stars, they're constantly in flux. We know that a star has a life cycle, but it's on such a long scale that humanity kind of is like, well, it's not in our lifetime, so why does it matter? It may not even be in the course of the human existence lifetime, right? So why does it matter? Well, it does matter because right now our sun is about to have what's being called by some, the cat is going crazy, a solar sneeze event. Another way of looking at it is the center of the sun, there's a solid center in the middle that's having these nuclear reactions. I don't know what's going on with that cat. Well, I do. There's something in the house. So as the solid center of the sun is rotating, the outside of the sun, that gaseous body that's around it, is also rotating. See, everything is constantly in motion. The rotation of the outside of the sun is at a different time lapse than the inside of the sun. So as these two things are rotating, it builds up a charge because they're not rotating at the same rate. The charge is just like what we would call kinetic energy. It's a stored energy that's not actually in motion. It's being stored and built up. Now, our sun, we know that it's going through this because the sun is changing in UV output, changing in gamma output, it's changing even in color. So for those of you who are my age, I turned 40 this year, and older, you probably remember as a child looking at the sun and being able to kind of look at it, not staring at it, but you could look at it, and it looked yellow, right? We talked about this before. It looked like a yellow sun. It doesn't anymore. It's white, and that change has been happening over about the last 10 years. And we know that the sun is on this kind of 11-year cycle, the solar cycle, where the solar storms get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're supposed to have completed an 11-year solar cycle, I think a few years ago. But they're still getting bigger. We're still getting really big solar storms, really big holes, really big outputtings. And it's just that we're not getting as hit by them by chance. We're not in the same region where the bursts are radiating out. So what's being hypothesized or talked about is this solar sneeze. All that kinetic energy building up in the sun is causing the sun to be more intense. If you have noticed, when you're outside, I used to be it's not man-made cosmic warming, no. I used to be able to be out in 75, 80-degree weather, and I would be fine. I loved it. I grew up riding horses, so I was an outdoor kid. I was always outside, never had any problems with that. About 10 years ago, I started to have problems being outdoors. Now, if it's like 80 or 90, I can't even go outside. No, there's no way. I'm like dying. I know it's only 80 degrees, but it feels like 100 degrees to me. I burn almost instantly, and I tan really fast. So I have to always wear hats, UV protective clothing, and it's not because we're getting a hole over the Antarctic. Okay, that's not what's causing this. What's happening is the UV output from the sun is more intense. I was even listening to a program where they were talking to people who work outdoors, construction workers, and they're talking about how 75-degree weather, which used to be their dream, is like killing them to be outdoors in that weather all day long. This is why our country and many countries around the world are doing so much chemtrailing. The chemtrails are designed to be like a screen that covers the atmosphere, hopefully reflecting off more of these UV rays that are coming through. So they think they're protecting us. However, the sunlight that's coming through is important for us to get in. It is important because it is causing our DNA, our genetic material, to upgrade and to activate. And that's why so many people right now are awakening. Why people are starting to sense each other's thoughts, why people are starting to sense energy, why people are having an increased phenomenon of psychic energy, telekinesis, telekinetics, right? Things are moving in their homes. People are feeling consciousnesses of the trees, all of that stuff. That's why that's increasing, is because the energy of the sun, as it goes through this period, which, by the way, is on a 25,000-year cycle, which we also recognize that number from the Law of One, talks about how every 25,000 years there's a harvest that occurs in our greater 70,000-year cycle of time spent in third density, which we've also talked about. So that number comes up a lot. Also, we know that about every 25,000 years, it seems like humanity kind of starts over again, right? So they used to say humanity was about, 100,000 years old, but its modern expression only 20,000 years. But then we're finding things that are so much older. Let's see, I got a sunburn the other day and the temperature was 60. Yeah, but is that a cult? Could be discern. So the cult aspect, people are just feeling this constant drive to come together, to connect, to feel one with each other. And all the belief systems which they hold, whether they're cultural, religious, familial, societal, they're all those belief systems are going to dictate what the nature of that coming together is going to look like. It's very important to recognize that the belief systems that we hold are what we need to break down, right? One of the things that I learned pretty early on when I was doing this awakening work for myself was that everything I learned just put me on a different perspective. And then as I stood from that new perspective and looked back over everything I knew was no longer true. And I learned that truth is perspective-based. Once I understood that, I also learned that good and bad are simply polarities of positive and negative, and that neither is good or bad. The valuation that we place around it is what we have to release. Because sometimes we need things that deconstruct. We need to break down. The river, as it passes, it breaks down and breaks away and creates room for itself so that it can flow more cleanly. And sometimes we need things that construct. We build things up so that the river can have a space, have a lake. so that we can hold our water in places, so that we can create a space in which to be. In order to create, we must deconstruct to create that space, right? And then sometimes we need to sustain things. So it's really not about which one of those things is good or bad. It's, are those things happening in alignment with what we want to accomplish? And then is our a desire for accomplishment, is that in alignment with the greater good? So it's all a balance. And that, all of that is what taught me and got me to the place where I realized the most important aspect of awakening is stepping into a state of allowance. The more I resist or block anything that's happening, whatever that may be, the more I struggle, the more I suffer, the more pain I experience because I'm resisting the lessons. Lessons come in whatever form we're going to learn from them, and often if we're stubborn, they come and they continue to come and escalate until pain and then suffering is involved. And as I'm talking about it, I'm getting a pain in my lower back. A fear about what's the next step if I allow everything to happen, right? So getting into that state of allowance is, I believe, the goal. And once we're in a state of allowance, we can see the truth, that unity truth, which comes from the law of one. We hear about it, but we also know it innately inside of ourselves. We innately know that we're a part of a greater mechanism. And when we can release our judgment or our elitism that holds us of one over another, then we can start to feel the truth of that unity. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of what's going on. How does that feel to you guys? Was that too much? Or did that help put things in perspective? I know that some of you already talk about this, already are aware of all this. Hello, Martina. So yeah, that's basically that's kind of what's going on right now. That's what's happening. And everything else is designed so we can start healing the wounds of separation, the parts of ourselves that don't feel connected to the rest, don't feel in alignment with all of what's going on around us. In order to fully come into unity consciousness, we have to be willing to allow whatever that transition will look like to be. If you want to be able to get to that next level, you have to be willing to jump. And that means not knowing, is there actually something on the other side? What's coming to mind is, have you ever noticed how at the zoo, when they have like those impalas and those kind of like deer-like animals in these arena cages, these areas where they just have this short little fence, and we know that these deer, they can leap like 6 to 8 feet tall, high into the air. How do they keep it inside that space? What they do is they make it so on the other side of that short fence, that deer or whatever it is, the impala or gazelle or whatever, they can't see the ground on the other side. And because they can't see where the actual ground is on the other side where they would land, they won't jump. So we're kind of like the impala, and we could be free if we were willing to jump, unknowing of what the ground on the other side actually is. So yeah, that's that. Today, I don't have any requests yet for card pulls, so while I'm going to give you guys the time to request card pulls while I give you my really brief outline of things that are coming up, so you know ways that you can interact and work with me. I wanted to first of all let you guys know. Oh, Pocky. Sure, Laura. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to let you guys know next Monday, my son has his next doctor's appointment with his surgeon to see if he's cleared and everything is all good in his hand. So far, the thumb is all healed. It's all aligned perfectly. Sue, okay, so we've got our 3. Great, thanks, ladies. It's all perfectly aligned and it's healed. It's just soft bone right now. So he said 3 weeks, and then he'll get cleared to be off and running and doing his own thing. thing. So that's the update. So next Monday, the appointment's at 8:30 in the morning. I might be a little bit late. I'll do my best to be here on time, but if you don't see me at 10, check for me at 10:15, because I will come on. I'm not canceling Monday. I'll just be on time or close to it. The other thing is, the next big event that's coming is going to be down in the Eugene area. We're going to be doing another panel with 4 psychics, myself included, psychic intuitive readers of their own nature. And we did a panel just last week. It was really fun. We talked about a lot of interesting things, did some wonderful things. So the panel is going to be Friday the 28th down in Eugene, and I will be posting about where exactly that is, the details. And then on the 29th, we're going to be doing a really big fair. So that's Friday night. It's like 6 to 9 or 7 to 9. I can't remember exactly the timing of that right now. But Friday day or Saturday day, there's going to be a huge fair down there with, I think at least a couple dozen, but I'm not sure exactly. I don't have all the numbers yet, of different readers in Eugene. Some of them will be local. Some of them will be us from Portland area. Some will be coming from Seattle area. So that should be a really fun event, and that's going to be going from 1 to 9, so it's going to be a longer event, and that's one of those places that you can try out all these different kinds of readers and psychics and see what they do, their different ways of working. And then way far out, I'm going to be doing the next Emerald Spiral Fair. That's in September, and I'm going to be speaking there, so that'll be up in Kent, Washington, and I'm going to be giving a talk about connection and grounding and in connection with your guidance. So that's that. Now, I have a treat for you guys. I got some new cards. I have to admit, the Voyager deck does not connect with me. I can understand why some people love it. It's not my deck. I'll figure out who it's supposed to go to, but it's definitely not mine. But what I did get is definitely my deck. So this is my new deck. It's called Galactic Heritage Cards, and it's Card Meanings and Commentaries by Lisa Royal Holt and illustrations by David Cow. So David is a movie maker from Hong Kong, and Lyssa, L-Y-S-S-A, she is a psychologist who studied, specialized in hypnotherapy, and quickly started connecting in with guides and with different beings from different places. So these cards are really cool. Like, I can't even tell you how cool the box even feels. Just the box that they come in feels wonderful. So I thought today I would, and these were recommended to me by a good friend, Vashta, who I've talked to you guys about before, who does amazing readings, where she creates imagery that you can use to connect more completely into your guidance with. So I thought today what I would do is give you guys readings from this new deck, and we can start learning the new deck together. How does that sound? So first we've got Laura. Now this deck is big. It's 108 cards, and it doesn't shuffle very well. I'm just going to say that's my only real criticism of it. And but it's warming up. It's warming up. I did a reading for myself that was really powerful. I did a reading for my good friend Brian, who's a dragon master, who's also quite an amazing intuitive guy, and I did one for my husband. All so far have been bang on, and they have a really interesting perspective. So I'm going to be reading from the book today, and we'll just go for it and see what we get to. So this one is for Laura. Okay, so this is card number 38. It's Black League Patterning, Orion Past. Would love to have you on one of my discussions on YouTube. Oh, I'd love to. No, yeah, that sounds like fun, Yvonne. Yeah, Jesse, you're funny. You're a funny man. The fun thing about this deck is even my normal way of shuffling when I'm going to do a reading, it usually lets me know when to stop shuffling because everything is in alignment. This deck does not want me to pull in any sort of an order. It wants me to cut and pull for each individual card, so it's very different. All right, Orion Black League patterning. The imagery in this deck is so interesting to me. The secret Orion Society fighting the negative forces was called the Black League. They operated covertly and were a major force for inspiration and hope. A pop culture metaphor would be like the Jedi Knights from Star Wars. You have had experience with this group and this latent tendency of resisting authority or fighting for peace is a deep karmic pattern. Today, it is important that this polarity of us versus them be healed. Shift your focus away from light and dark scenarios. Begin to see reality in a unified way, with all manifestations being equal and valuable as part of the creation itself. The Black League is a term referring to the resistant groups that formed during the darkest times in Orion. These groups were usually run by priests who practiced vegan mysticism and who were also warriors as well. These groups ultimately helped change the consciousness within the Orion system so that it could transform. We did. But not without a struggle. They also had to learn the folly of living in polarity, which is what you do when you fight darkness. So even though the Black League and the Orion civilization as a whole eventually transcended polarity and healed itself, many beings who lived there brought this polarized energy to Earth, and it's still being played out here. On Earth, we can see it playing out through secret societies who believe they fight for freedom from tyranny. Religious extremist groups who believe that they are liberating people, and any groups or persons who view reality in a polarized way and fight against the side that they label as negative. This only perpetuates polarity and fights against the side they label This only perpetuates polarity. If this card comes up in your reading, it usually comes up with other Orion cards or cards with a similar theme. It is most likely suggesting that you look at your view of reality and how you might see it in a polarized way. It is encouraging you to begin to view reality as more of a unified field, and that there is a greater balance that perhaps you cannot see. It is asking you to totally transform your life from one of polarity to one of unity. And this is just what I was talking about earlier. I know, right, Jesse? Aren't these awesome? Okay, so our next card pull is going to be for Yvonne, and I'm going to take a sip of my smiling coffee because it's just smiling at me. It's going, you're ignoring me, and I'm so full. Good. We have to always look at that part of ourselves that feels any sort of righteousness, any sort of like validation, justification, better than, above another, as a result of a sense of value or worth coming from that in any way, even if it's dark or light, negative or positive, whatever way. There's always some value in everything, even service to others versus service to self. Even recognizing we have to see that the service to self is still service to the creation, right? Because if they're the creator being, they're still serving the creation. We can't look at the dark black hole at the center of our galaxy as a bad thing, no more than we can look at our sun as a good thing. They're all, it just depends on where you're at, what you're doing. Polarity is what we're releasing right now. Okay, Yvonne. I just love these cards, you guys, seriously. I might be reading from them for a while. because I really do like them. Ooh. So seriously, this is the theme that we're on. It always stems from training from youth, and who says which way is right or which way is wrong. Exactly. Well, it stems much further back than that, Laura, and that's kind of the point. It's written into us because it's part of our DNA. It's part of we are in a polarized system, and that's why those from the Orion group who did not want to have to drop into unity, into the fullness, into that balance, that wanted to continue to maintain polarity, came here, because that's what we do here. They're like, oh, I can still control there. I can still be powerful, and I know so much more, right? So this is a very ancient and deeply entrenched pattern that we have to release, not just from this life. It gets reinforced in this life, definitely, by what we're taught in youth. Okay, Yvonne, so you got 14 seeds of polarity. This is Lyra past. So let me look that one up. Okay. As humanoid races began growing throughout the Lyran system, the YinYang principle of duality became more pronounced. At first, the polarities remained balanced, but because our cosmic journey is about growth and the integration of polarity, these polarities had to become more pronounced before they could be healed. Take a look at how polarity plays out in your life today. Do not fear it as you did in ancient times. Learn how to stay balanced even amid the temptation to choose one pole over the other. Wisdom comes from embracing both rather than choosing one side over another. As we progress through the process of our separation from the source and our journey into polarity, this card represents the beginning era of polarity that began to manifest in the Lyran colonies, that later branched out to the future Lyran colonies and races that came from Lyra. This further fragmentation was a necessary step in our journey into polarity, but at this point in time, the Lyrans were an immature civilization and didn't know how to balance polarity. Thus, there were times in the past that were very dark because these young beings had no roadmap by which they could navigate polarity. They often got sucked into choosing negative or positive and fear and furthering the fragmentation. On Earth now, we have the wisdom of our ancestors within us, Lyrans included, to help us navigate this treacherous road, and it is most likely that we won't make the same mistakes as our forefathers. If this card comes into your reading, it can often serve as a warning to you to not polarize in your life now. Examine your choices and actions carefully. Even when you think you might be making a choice from a place of neutrality, look deeper. The idea of good and evil, which is a polarity many humans encounter, is really an illusion. Can you go beyond these value judgments, which are labels created by the mind, and see what lies beyond a polarized reality? Yeah. Okay, so let's see, Yvonne. Gosh, yes, this is truth. Been going back and forth with my radio show, YouTube, alt media, stay authentic, inner work. Yep, so technically, since the Jedi position opposed the dark side, they were, in fact, actually in polarity. Yes, exactly, Jesse. Exactly. Okay. And that's why they got destroyed. That's why both got destroyed, right? That's why the Empire and the Jedi got destroyed, because ultimately they were in a polarized system. One of the things I'm going to say, I was reading in the front of this this book, she talks about how she made this deck, how she got the information. And it started in the 80s, actually. She felt like she was going to be making a card divination deck because she was being connected to and contacted by these galactics. And she's like, oh my God, if people could get this information, how could they use it? How can we create it? And she heard, you're going to make a deck. So she started by trying to make a tarot deck with somebody, and everything just did not work out for it. No alignment, right? It wasn't time. She wasn't ready. That wasn't ready. Exactly. So then she kept looking, and it came to her again, and she had no idea what she was doing, but she just started kind of creating a layout for the cards. And then she was told, okay, there's going to be different races, 4 different races, just like there's 4 different suits. So those races came to her. Then there was, then it just like kept unfolding in that way until she had built the cards with each one having kind of a number, a numerical value, what being or race they were from, whether they were a past, present, future, or parallel, and then whether or not, and what the greater theme of that would be. Then she had all these kind of like alternative cards. And when she got all the way done with building what the cards would be, and all of it was just coming through and channeling to her, she had 108 cards, which reduces to 9, which we know is a very sacred number. And so she knew, okay, all right, we're good. So then it came to, she had no idea what the imagery would be, and she just happened to connect with her friend, David Cow, and he was like, I'd love to do the images for that. So then that was created. And then as she sat and looked at each image, she received all this information, and that's how she got the information for each card. So all this is extremely channeled information, which for me makes it so much more powerful in the sense that you can get all kinds of things from channeled stuff, but when you feel it, everything aligns for it, and it's being channeled through, it just, you know, it's coming from someone who's really trying to support us, really seeking to create a space for us to grow. Okay, so this is hilarious because it's the card right before it. We're having a lot of synchronicities in these card pulls, and I think even though they're for the 3 of you, they're really for all of us. So this is card number 13. This is Lyra again, birth and expansion, past. As the Lyran civilization grew, it unleashed a tremendous amount of creative energy. There was so much excitement to build this new civilization and expand into the galaxy. It was a time of optimism, enthusiasm, and creative experimentation. This card reminds you of that ancient time that you were a part of, and it encourages you to once again find that creative spark within you. Don't be afraid of your creativity. There were times when you were punished for it, but that reality has passed. It's time to release the karmic pattern of fear, your creativity, and trust the universe to support it. Commentary is, because this refers to the time period of Lyra's past pioneering spirit, card number 11, their commitment and enthusiasm to build the physical reality that they desired, a masculine trait, card 12, you might think that this is a card that represents a focus on masculine energy. That isn't necessarily true. It refers even more deeply to the creative process of the Lyrans, which, when used in a healthy way, was a very balanced expression. Remember, we need masculine and feminine in order to create life, right? Creativity can be used for service or for selfishness. In their journey to mature as a species, the Lyrans used this creativity in both ways, and they learned the lessons of selfishness when they made unconscious, self-serving choices. Just like children or teenagers learn about the results of their choices, so did the Lyrans. If you have this card in your reading, look at the surrounding cards, and if there's a theme of several cards that warn of ego traps, we're getting theme of several cards warning about polarity traps. If there's a theme of several cards warning about ego traps, pay attention to your hidden desires for your creative process. If the cards have a theme of nurturing your creative process or spiritual development, then you are encouraged to trust your creative process and take risks with it, even if you don't know where it will lead. Talk about a synchronicity, what we were talking about before. See why I love these cards, you guys? We might be reading from them for a little while till I feel more confident with them. Thank you for doing this as well. It takes energy. You know what, you guys, you're welcome. And you're right, it does. It takes a commitment. I have to, every week, go through and fill out on my calendar before I do anything else what Morning Oasis is, where we're at, what we're doing, making sure that I'm creating that space, which means that there's oftentimes I would be out at this time of day doing other things. So Yes, it is a commitment, and it's a commitment that I'm making not just to you guys, but it's also a commitment I make to myself. I honestly rarely know what I'm going to talk about in the morning oasis until I sit down. It's a response to you guys and what your needs are and where you're at, as well as where I'm at and what I'm doing and where I'm growing. And it's a commitment to my own daily practice, right? Because what happens is oftentimes after I do and lead a meditation for you guys, it's for me as well. I go and then I meditate more deeply on my own. So because I've created the space in the morning, I know that I'm going to have that time after the morning is over to create even more space for myself. And that's been also making it so that my weekdays are working days, days where I'm creating things, building things, staying focused on all of that. So this whole process, like the morning oasis, is a critical part of my own growth and development, and I wouldn't be doing it if you guys weren't showing up. So you guys showing up, you guys coming in alignment is what helps me know I'm on the right path, helps keep my work focused in the right way, because I'm human too. I'm struggling to release my polarity, release my ideas of good and bad. I was just talking about some of my own issues and struggles with that myself, so we all are being faced with these challenges, and by witnessing each other, coming together, coming in alignment with each other, and creating unity not around belief systems, not around a religious or around ritualistic or around dogmatic practices that are outdated and that no longer belong in our culture. We're pushing forward and creating space for everybody to feel that unity, to come into that unity collective, to feel like they are one, all one part of each other. So thank you. I wouldn't be doing this without you guys. Now, we are talking about the separation wounds. So we've got about 15 minutes left, just the right amount of time. We're going to do a meditation on working on healing the separation wound in ourselves, even more deeply. I'm going to come back and read your guys' comments later. You guys can read each other's comments for now. All right. Make sure you're sitting comfortably, guys. And this is one other thing I want to point out. By you guys coming together here and being active and participating in the conversation, participating in the discussion, you guys get to know each other. And many of you have found each other through this process. We're creating space for our collective community, right? And our community grows all the time. We're growing and growing. And we're growing in our strength of connection to each other. So just remember that, you guys. It's beautiful. It's powerful. It's awesome. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee while you guys get comfortable. Choose whether you want to lay down, which I would if I weren't doing this. I prefer to lay down while I'm meditating, so go ahead and get yourself set. Jessie. Who did get enough attention as a child, really? And those ones who did, do we like them very much? No. I mean, they're kind of hard to deal with because they expect attention. They expect everyone to think of them as the most perfect, the most precious, the most valuable, when we're all precious, perfect, and valuable, right? All right, so go ahead and start feeling your body. If you're feeling yawns or you're feeling those expressions, just recognize deep breathing is important right now. The body's already starting to transition into this meditative state. So breathing in this present moment and exhaling, releasing. Breathing in the here and the now. Smelling the air, feeling the temperature. And exhaling, releasing. Breathing in this present awareness, present moment. And exhaling, begin unhooking yourself from everything that's come before, everything that happened yesterday and this morning, last night. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection, coming into wholeness. Exhaling and releasing, unhooking from the rest of today for this time, this space, and tomorrow. Just releasing, drawing in those lines of connection. And as you exhale, go ahead and unhook from your expectations of yourself this time, your judgments of yourself. Just go ahead and unhook. Continue this process while we bring our attention into the soles of our feet, feeling them growing and thickening, widening as our roots drop down, as we remember and embrace the physicality with which we came here to be, to express as. Continue to drop your roots deeper and wider, and as you do so, invite Gaia, ask Gaia to come into your vessel and support you, to show you and inspire you and hold you as you remember your oneness and your unity with her, with the physical world that is in its own growth, its own process. We came here to be physical beings, light bodies in physical vessels. So we're going to embrace our physicality, even the aches, the pains, the struggles, the hardships of a physical expression. We're going to embrace it as we grow our roots deeper and wider. Go ahead and send your taproots down all the way into the center of the earth, into the heart of Gaia, tapping into her heart. Feel yourself tapping into that electromagnetic field of the planet as it's shifting and changing, flexing and retracting. And we're going to draw that energy of Gaia up through the vessel. Feel how it's already up through the feet, all the way up through the legs, coming into the hips. That seat, because we're so grounded. We're in a state of allowance for Gaia to ground us. We're not trying to be intentional. We're allowing Gaia to ground us all the way through the vessel. Just observe and feel that different state. And I'll feel you guys as well. And we'll cue into Source once Gaia reaches our crown. That was quick, wasn't it? Now we're going to once again, as we send that energy and our crown opens and unfolds and blossoms, we're going to send that consciousness energy up and out of our crown as it connects into Source, inviting Source to help us and to remind us and to show us our oneness with the creation, with the infinite consciousness. as we go all the way into the heart of Source. Good. We're going to invite Source to come and connect each and every one of our cells and even the space between our cells all the way down through the vessel as we remember the light being with which we came here to be, which we're using to embody our vessels. Bringing that energy down. Until you feel it flushing out of your roots, connecting Gaia and Source, serving as that conduit being. And breathe. Now I want for you to visualize in front of you the YinYang symbol. Go ahead and see it with its black and its white sides, taking up each half of the circle, one pushing into the other. And see that smaller white circle in the black and the smaller black circle in the white. Visualize that symbol of duality, of polarity. And I want you to start visualizing as though they have their own little symbols, everything in your life that you view as good. Everything you think of as light, everything you think of as positive, everything you think of as the desirable, the positive polarity, all of that, visualize that within the white space, as though little symbols of it are being put there. And now I want you to begin to visualize symbols of everything you think of as bad, everything you think of as wrong, broken, damaged, less than, anything you think of yourself as superior over or better than because it's not in you or you want to reject it, all those things in the black. People, religions, organizations, all of that in the black. Now I want you to try and think of or allow yourself, your highest of selves, to show you what symbols of negativity, what are the problems with viewing everything you see in the light as being better than? What causes problems in that? Who suffers as a result of your better than? Place those symbols, those visions, those imagery, or feelings or sensations into the little black spot inside of the white. There's more than you thought, huh? Now I want you to allow your higher self to guide you and place all the things that could be positive that come from what you view as bad, you view as wrong. Put all of those things that could potentially actually be quite positive into the white circle that's inside the black. Now I want you to take your finger and point it into the heart of that yin-yang symbol and begin stirring and mixing until all you see is gray. There's no more black, no more white. It's all mixed up into one color. The unity of without polarity. You can stir it in both directions. And take this paint that you've been stirring, that's now unity paint, non-polarized, and dip it in that and dip it onto your crown chakra. Get another dip of it onto your third eye, bringing in the frequency of unity. Dip into it. Bring it into your throat chakra. Bringing that unity, awareness, and frequency into each of these spaces of ourselves. Dip into it. Bring it into the heart chakra. Dip into that paint. Bring it into the solar plex. Dip into it. Bring it into the sacral. Dip into it. Bring it into the root chakra. And now take the rest of that symbol as though it's a little bucket of that paint and just pour it over yourself. Allow it to pour all over you as you come into unity. Releasing all need of polarity, all need of elitism, all need of anything that's left, leaving you feeling a sense of imbalance. Anything that pulls you out of balance, just release and allow that paint to cover you. As you feel yourself drop into total neutrality. Not apathy, but neutrality. And in this state of neutrality, breathe in gratitude. And exhale joy. Breathe in gratitude for all that is, all that was, that created this unity. And exhale, total joy. Go ahead and stay in this process for as long as you choose. I'm grateful you came, and I'll see you tomorrow.